You're live.
Cooper, get off me. Surprise. I'm Ginger, and Sarah couldn't make it today. So I am going to teach you. Wait a minute. Where is it?
There you go.
Oh, there it is. Oh, my God.
No.
Anyway, look here, guys. I'm sorry. This is my first time doing this. But here's the earrings that we're gonna make today. Aren't they pretty? And welcome to my studio. Really? I'm just pulling your leg. Sarah's really here. Don't cry. Sarah's really here. But listen, I'm gonna get up out. I don't even know where to look. I'm going to get up out of my chair and I'm going to put Sarah in the chair. See you guys.
Goodness.
If I just know where to look.
Hello, darlings.
And that was Ginger on her best behavior.
Yeah, so in order for Ginger to do that, I had to make her promise that she would behave. And she did a great job. I have Colleen down here at my feet. I've got Joan on one side. Ginger's over here.
Two dogs.
Two dogs. All the squeaky toys. This room is full, you guys. This room is full.
I thought it was a dog.
So I've got a really fun project for you guys. So I hope that you are looking forward to it. We've got a fun one. But let's see. I feel like I've got some things that I need to catch you guys up with. Let's see. Let me think. It kind of threw me off having Ginger in the seat. Now I've forgotten all the things that I needed to tell you. This is the end of the August week, right? We're headed into September. So one of the things that I definitely want to mention is that the Hardwired group is open for enrollment. And in order to do that, if you guys want to be part of the Hardwired group, you send a group request to that group and make sure you answer all of the questions, okay? Because that's how we're going to get back in touch with you to get your invoicing and get you all set up to be part of the Hardwired group. For those of you who are not familiar with the Hardwired group, that is the paid group that I have where we do projects that are just a little bit harder. They're more intermediate type projects. Yeah, I am.
Oh, just kidding.
Sorry, technical difficulty there. But anyway, if you're interested in being a part of that group, it's a smaller group and we have extra lives and we also have a little extra things that go on. So for instance, this week, we have a special guest on Thursday night who is coming. That's Nile. He's going to be talking about jewelry photography. So it's more than just projects. You do get little extras. So if you are still kind of on the fence and thinking about being part of the Hardwired group, now is your opportunity to sign up to be a part of that because you only get like a week at the end of each month to sign up. That just makes everybody's invoices come at the same time. So if you're interested, definitely come and check that out. Hello to everybody. Hi, Laurie. Hi, Janice. Hi, Susie. Hi, Jessica. Gia's here. Maggie's here. It's so good to see everybody. Take a breath for just a second. I feel like there are other things that I need to tell you. Oh, yes. I remember what they are. So we've got our weekly project today. I have a Michael's class tomorrow at 2 p.m. If you are interested in coming and signing up for that, all of the information for that is in the community group. It is under events, but that happens over on the Michael's website. And then I have another Michael's class. This is actually a 2-class week for me. I've got another Michael's class on Saturday that also happens at 2 p.m. Eastern time. So if you guys want to come and check those out, those are just some extra projects that you can have with me this week. All right, so let's talk about our project for today. So we are putting together an easy project using a necklace component that I already have. And some of you may have one of these or something similar in your stash. And then I'm going to make some earrings that go with this. The earrings are super, super simple. There's not anything really hard about the pendant either. We're just doing some easy wire wrapping, but I feel like the results are really awesome. So I'm looking forward to showing this to you guys. We're just doing some simple wire wrappings and some simple loops. Joan's got the materials list for everybody who needs it here over on Facebook. Hello to all of my YouTube people. Colleen is handling everything over on the YouTube. So everybody's doing something except for Ginger. She's sitting over there making faces at me. Everybody's working hard today. All right, so let me get down to the mat and we're going to get started with today's project. Okay.
It won't let me pin anything though.
It won't let you pin.
No.
Oh,
we did a supply this morning once.
okay. All right, guys. So let me show you the pendant. Now, hopefully I don't know that you're going to have the exact pendant in your stash, but what I'm hoping to achieve here is for you to look at some of the things that you've already got in your stash and maybe look at them a different way, or think of other ways that you can kind of, I don't know, turn them more personal, right? Because you can pick up pendants all day long and make 10 jewelry pieces that look the same. But if you alter the pendant itself, it really kind of gives it its own personality. So that's what we're going to be doing with this pendant. So I'm going to create a necklace around this. These little spaces here, we're actually going to do some wire wrapping in between these little spaces and add some beads to that. And then I'm going to do a cute little beaded triangle here to hang this from a simple piece of chain. And then we're going to make some simple earrings to go with it. Now, like I said, you may not have this exact same pendant in your stash, but I'm sure that you've got something similar that maybe you can alter. And I'm just showing you one of a few ways that you can look a little bit differently at things that maybe you already have. Okay. I'm going to be using 26 gauge German style wire for this. 26 gauge is really, really super thin. And it's going to be perfect for attaching our little beads to our pendant. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut some of this wire here. I'm going to cut about 12 inches of the 26 gauge. And like I said, that's German style wire. But if you don't have any, you definitely can use artistic wire for this as well. There's no reason why you can't. Okay. So let me show you the beads. These little teeny beanie beads are the ones that we're going to be using. So these are 2.5 millimeter little crystal rondelles. You could use seed beads, anything that you've got, because the space here is very, very small. Now, if you had a larger bead, if you wanted to use a 4 millimeter bead instead, you probably want to do every other one of the openings instead of every single one. Okay, so let's see. There was a question. Peggy says there was a question from Lisa. Is there a pin for the hardwire group? We can put I think there's a link in here somewhere. I thought there was, but they can post one for you. Thank you, Peggy. Okay, so we're going to get started. We're going to take our end of the wire and we need to attach this. Let's see here. We want to just lay it across and find a little tiny, we're working in a really small spot, you guys. So we need to find a little place here where we can anchor this wire. I'm going to take the wire through that first loop and I'm going to wire wrap it around. So I'm going around the component. You see that little silver ball, that little bead part right there? I'm actually going to go on the other side of it towards the top of the pendant just to anchor my wire. And I'm only going to wrap around about 2 times, but I want to be sure that those wraps are nice and tight. So I'm going to grab my pliers here and make it a little bit easier. Okay. And you can see why 26 gauge wire, see how it just kind of disappears onto the pendant? You don't even really see it. Okay, so I'm going to come to the back. I'm going to trim off the excess. Okay. And now I'm going to take the wire, the tail end of that wire, and I'm going to come up through that loop. Actually, I'm not going to come up through there. I forgot what we were doing here. I was going to go through the loops. We're actually going to go to the next loop. We're going to sit a bead right there. I've done this 2 different ways. That's why I'm getting a little bit confused here. This is the easier of the 2. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to thread a bead onto the 26 gauge wire. Okay. And I'm going to drop that down, and I'm going to put the bead over, not that first little opening, but the second opening, because this one is where we're anchored, right? I'm going to sit it on top of that opening. And then I'm going to take the tail end of my wire and I'm going to go down through the next opening on the pendant. Okay. So basically we are just going to wire wrap our beads like we would wire wrap. In fact, like we've done several times by wire wrapping beads to the outside of a component. We're actually doing the same thing, but we're making sure that this bead is sitting on top of the component. So when I pull, I sit that bead right into that opening. And you can see the wire is coming up over the side of the component, right? And we went back down. So now we're going to bring it back up here to the front, and we're going to do the same thing again. So I'm going to pick up another bead. Okay, whoops. Okay, dropping that down. I want to sit that over the next little opening. Okay, and I'm going to take my wire down through the opening next to where we set our bead. Okay, so basically I say we're wire wrapping, which we are, but it's very similar to sewing, right? We're kind of sewing our beads or stitching our beads onto the top of the component. And we're going to go all the way around and fill up all of the little holes here with our beads. Okay, so drop another bead down and sit that bead where you want it to go before you take your wire and go down through the next opening on your pendant. So what I'm hoping is that now that you see me adding these beads and kind of how I'm attaching these beads, even if you don't have the same little component in your stash, I'm pretty sure you can find a component that's similar, or at least a component where there are open spaces. You can use any of the open spaces in pre-made components to add other beads. You could go through all of these little spaces in the next row up with the flowers and add little beads here if you wanted to as well. So I'm hoping to inspire you to kind of see things a little bit differently than just plain Jane metal pieces that you've got, right? So added another bead. I'm going to sit this one into that opening. And again, I'm going to take my wire, trim off some of this wire. It's a little long. Okay. I'm going to sit that bead into the opening, and then I'm going to take the tail end of my wire through the next opening. Okay. Okay, and you want to be careful with this 26 gauge wire. Make sure that it doesn't kink up on you. So I kind of guide the wire the entire way so that it doesn't create bends and knots. Now I realize this brown on this antique silver might be a little bit hard to see, but I want you to see I'm just doing simple wire wrapping, right? We're just wrapping around. That's all we're doing to attach these beads to this pendant. Okay, now we've got a ways to go. I'll do a few more of these. I don't know that I'll do the entire pendant because I don't want you to have to sit here forever. And we are making earrings to go with this as well. But I'm going to do as many as I can. I've got one that is ready to be finished. So I've got to step out. Okay. You're fine. Ginger just said, I'm not the problem. That's funny. Oh, goodness. Everybody's being so well behaved today.
You threatened us.
I did threaten them. All right. So let's do a few more of these and then I'll show you how to finish this off and we will finish up the necklace part of this. There are still a few more steps to this. Okay. So it is more helpful if you'll go ahead and bend the wire and hold the bead in place and then weave your wire through. And then of course, I don't know if you can tell, but every time I add a bead, I make sure to make that wire go into kind of a loop shape. I went through the wrong part of this component here. Okay. So as I pull my loop down and make it smaller, I want to be sure that I'm keeping it nice and rounded. That's going to make it much easier when I'm pulling the small sections, right? Okay. All right. Okay. Now add another. All right. So I drop that bead down. I go ahead and bend the wire so that I can place that bead exactly where I want it to be. I'm holding it with my finger and then I'm taking the wire down through the next opening, pulling it all down. Okay. We'll do two more. And then I'm going to show you how to finish this, okay? All right, so drop that bead down. Go ahead and bend the wire and place that bead right where you want it. Take the wire down through the next opening, right?
Where'd you get these bears?
So those were dressed up buttons bears.
You had to go there to dress up. Leave it.
Okay. Oh goodness me. All right, last bead, and then I'm gonna switch to a step out. Okay, so last bead, I'm gonna drop it down in there, and I'm gonna take my wire through the next. Kendall said the whispers. I'm dying. They can hear you whispering. Yeah.
Good thing they couldn't see us about 2 minutes ago.
Okay, so just a few more and we would have finished this up, but I'm going to stop here because I think you're kind of getting the idea, but I want to show you a couple of things. Okay. Just so that you kind of know what it looks like from all sides. So this is on this side. You can see how we're just kind of winding that wire around with just the addition of the bead. And then when you come to the back, you can see where that wire is going into each one, or actually since it's in the back, it's actually coming out of each one of those components because we're coming from the front to the back. So you can see, right, how it doesn't even take very much wire at all to have those beads sitting right there on top of that component. So it's the same thing as wire wrapping to the outside. We're just wire wrapping to the top, right? Okay, but let me show you what it looks like and how you want to finish one of them off. So here's one where I have one more bead to add. You can see I've added all of the beads to this one, and I just need one more bead, and then we will finish off the wire. Whoops. Okay, so I'm going to thread on one last bead, put it down in that last spot where we want it, and now we're going to finish the same way that we started. So I'm going through that very first loop with my wire, I'm just going to guide it through, just like we would if we were going from one bead to the next. But now I need to anchor the wire end, and I've got a little tiny space here to work with. So I got to be careful. I'm going to go through that same loop again. Okay. Pull the wire, and I'm going to go one more time, and then I'm going to trim from the back. So basically we just finished the same way we started, but I just wanted to show you that now you're working in a much smaller section. So if you're curious about why it is I'm using that 26 gauge wire, it's because I am working in such a really small section. Okay. All right. So I'm going to pull that nice and tight. And I'm going to come to the back and trim off what's left. Okay. All right. Now you can see how I added all of the beads to my pendant. Now I've got one over here that's kind of sitting there. It just needed a little adjusting, right? So it definitely adds a lot more character to a pre-made component, right? And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And if you, like I said, if you want to go through this next section up and cover up those flowers with different beads, you can. But we're going to build a little, kind of like a little veil here for the center of our project. Let's see. I'm going to pull up the picture though to make sure that I do this exactly the way I did it to start with. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do for the center here is we are going to take one of these little Picasso beads. So I want to hang a little bead here from the center. Okay. We're just going to do a wrapped loop on this. So I'm going to use a head pin, and actually in the materials list, there are eye pins listed, but I wanted to show you guys, just in case you don't have any eye pins, all I have for today's project are head pins. I'm actually going to be altering these and turning them into eye pins when necessary. So I'm going to go ahead and thread. I need a head pin for this one. I'm going to thread. Oh my gosh. Oh, you all. Too funny. So I'm going to thread this on, and then I'm going to thread a little bead cap onto the top. And to tie it all together, I'm going to thread on one of these little brown metallic rondelles. Okay. Let's see. Let me make sure. All right, now we're going to do a wrapped loop. So I'm grabbing the wire with my chain nose pliers. Okay. I'm going to grab the wire and give it a bend, just like that. And I'm bending over the top of the pliers. That way, when I take the pliers away, I have the perfect amount of space for my wire wraps. I don't have to pre-measure. I don't have to eyeball it and guess. It's already ready for me. I'm going to come in with my round nose pliers, grabbing the wire. I'm going to take that wire up and over the top barrel of the pliers. So I'm moving the wire, not the tool. Okay. But now in order to get that wire over to the other side, the bottom barrel of the pliers is in the way. So I'm going to have to rotate, right? And then I can move that wire over, and that's going to help me to close up that loop. So when I take it off, that's what we've got. All right, I'm going to switch hands, and I'm going to wire wrap with the tail of that wire in the space between the loop and the top of our bead. Now, if you're using little rondelles like I'm using, please be mindful that the smaller the glass bead, the more fragile they are. And I have found that these little rondelles that I'm using in particular, they crack very, very easily. So don't push it with your wire. Don't do more loops, or I'm sorry, more wire wraps than you can actually fit in there. And definitely be careful when you're coming in with your cutter tool to make sure that you are not accidentally trimming or, gouging at your bead. So the head pins that I'm using for this project are 22 gauge. Actually, these might actually be 20 gauge because they're fairly thick. Okay, trimming off the excess. And again, when you want to come in and tuck in your extra, just be careful that you're not accidentally squeezing that glass rondelle. Okay. All right. So we've got our wrapped loop on top of our bead. That's going to hang here in the center. But first, we've got to put together a little beaded section here. So I do not have, let's see, I don't have any eye pins with me today. So I'm going to improvise, and I'm going to use a head pin instead. Okay. Oh my gosh, you guys are so distracting. Oh my God. All right. So what I'm going to do, since I don't have any eye pins, is I'm going to trim off the head of the head pin. Okay. And I'm trimming it right here, trimming it right at the end of the wire. So that way I still have all of the wire to utilize. Okay. I'm not losing any of the length, just trimming off that head. Now, there are two ways you can make your own eye pin. You can either go ahead and bend your wire. In fact, I'll show you both ways. So you can come down, just make like a guesstimate on your wire as to how much wire you're going to need. It usually takes about 1/4 of an inch of wire to make a loop. And you can give your wire a bend, right? And then roll back to make your eye pin. I'll show you the other way. So there's my loop. right? That's not the prettiest loop in the world, but it'll do. The other option for this is take your head pin, trim off the head again, okay? Take your round nose pliers, grab the wire right at the tip, and just go ahead and turn a loop. Now, it's not centered, right? Your wire is not centered. So once you've got your loop closed, back on the pliers, and then you're going to break the neck, which is a terrible description, but that's what it is. So you just give it the wire, or the loop rather, a bend, and that helps to center up the wire on your loop. So either one of those ways is going to work. Okay. You just use whichever one works the best for you. Okay. I do find that doing it this way makes the best loop. You can see how this one is more of like a teardrop shape, whereas this one is more of a loop. But truthfully, when you get it all in your piece of jewelry, you don't notice. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to put together a little beady section here right in the middle to hold our bead. So I'm going to take my eye pin. Okay, I'm going to thread it through the loop. I'm going to thread on one of our rondelles. I'm going to thread on a spacer bead, just a little extra pop of metal. I'm going to thread on the wrapped loop with our bead, another metal bead, and then another one of our rondelles. Uh-oh. Okay. I'm actually going to lay this down so that I can get that through the loop. Okay. You want to pull it all the way up to the loop, and now we're going to do a simple loop here. Okay. So where the wire is coming out of the other side of the pendant here, I'm just going to grab the wire and give it a bend. Okay. I'm going to come in with my cutter and trim off. I'm going to leave myself again about 1/4 of an inch of wire to create a simple loop. Okay. Coming in with our round nose pliers, and then I'm just going to roll back to close our loop. So now we've got a loop on either side, right? Okay, but that's not enough. I still want to keep going here. I want to build like a little beaded veil. And it's not really a veil because it's not where our pendant is going to actually attach to the chain, but it still just adds a little extra decorative beaded section, if you will. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of the wrapped loops that I've already made, right? I'm going to go ahead and open, or I'm sorry, it's a simple loop. I'm going to open that simple loop. I'm going to thread it on to that loop, and I'm going to close it back. Okay. Now I'm going to repeat the beaded section minus the hanging bead. So a rondelle, 2 of the metal beads. Okay, and another rondelle. Okay, now I'm going to do another simple loop. So I'm going to hold on to these beads and be careful. Don't crack that bead. Be careful of your chain nose pliers here. So take your chain nose pliers and you want to give the wire a bend. Okay, and again, coming in, and we're going to cut off, leaving ourselves about 1/4 of an inch of wire. Okay, coming in with the round nose pliers, and we're going to roll back to close up our loop. Okay, so now I'm just going to repeat that over here on the other side, and we're going to bring those 2 pieces together to make a really pretty little decorative triangle. But since all I have is head pins, I'm going to make my own eye pin. So I'm going to trim off the head. I'm going to come in with my round nose pliers, roll the wire to make my loop, right? Put it back on the tool, and then you just want to give it a little bend, and that's going to help to even out and put that wire centered up in your loop. Okay, now I'm going to open it, thread it over here, close that back. Make sure you get a good close on that. Okay. Okay, so that's nice and closed. And then again with our beads. So I've got a rondelle, 2 of our metal beads, and another one of our rondelles, and again with a simple loop. So I'm going to grab the wire right where it is exiting that bead, being careful not to crack that bead with these pliers. Okay. Bend the wire. Coming in with our cutter tool, leaving ourselves about 1/4 of an inch. And then roll back with the round nose pliers. Okay. So now what we want to do is we want to bring those two together. And I'm going to attach them to one of these guys. I know you've probably got some of these in your stash. It's a large hole bead, but it also has a loop on it so that you can hang pendants and charms and other things from it. I'm going to use it. I'm going to use the little loop on it to attach my little simple loops to. So very carefully, one at a time, I'm going to open. I'm going to thread it onto the loop. And I'm going to close it back, and then I'm going to do the same thing with the other one. Okay. So very carefully, I'm going to open that up and then thread it next to the one we just attached. Okay. And then close that loop back. Right. And now you've got a pendant that you can hang from literally anything, right? I'm going to hang mine from some antique silver chain just to keep that antique silver theme going on. But because I have a large whole pendant or bail, I can put this on leather. I can put this on cord. I can put it on ribbon. I can put it on any number of things. So if I'm feeling like changing it up a little bit, depending on what I'm wearing or how I'm feeling, then I definitely can do that by just sliding the pendant onto something a little bit different. But for today's project, I'm just going to thread it on to a simple piece of chain. So we're going to thread it on to our chain. And then I'm just going to add, one end already has a jump ring and a clasp, but I'm going to add a jump ring to this end. And then we're going to make some really simple earrings to go with this, just very, very quickly. Keeping it as easy as possible today. So I'm going to open up a jump ring, thread that on to the last link of my chain, and close that back. And then our necklace part is done. How pretty is that? So, so pretty. And it wasn't super hard. The only part of this that takes any real time is just adding the beads to the component. But it was basically just repetition. And then the rest of it was just some simple stringing and simple loops. So not anything super complicated here. Now, let me show you. I've got one of the earrings already made. We're going to make the mate to go with it. So again, it's one of those really beautiful faceted Picasso Jasper beads. I got these at Michael's. They come in a lot of different colors on one card, but I pulled the greenish, the kind of evergreen color for our project. I'm going to layer some bead caps and then just some more of that beautiful bronze faceted for extra sparkles. So let's do that real quick. So here is my bead. I'm going to thread that on to a head pin here. I'm going to thread on a bead cap, right? And then I'm going to thread on a cone. So I'm just layering my bead caps up here. So there's one of those, and then that's going to sit right on top of that. I prefer this look over this. So let me show you what it looks like without that. It still looks pretty, but it very much reminds me of an ice cream cone when it's just straightforward like that, the bead and the cone. So I like to break it up just slightly by adding a little extra visually by having that extra little layer in there. I don't know, just changes it up a little bit. Okay, we're going to put on a rondelle on the top of that, and we're going to do a wrapped loop. So coming in with our chain nose pliers, okay, grabbing the wire, giving it a bend. Ooh, right. Coming in with the round nose pliers, we're going to take that wire up and over. Rotate the pliers, take the wire over to the other side. And again, being very, very mindful of that glass rondelle so that when we are wire wrapping, we don't accidentally crack that bead. But we do want to wire wrap in that space between the loop that we made and our bead. Okay. So there's that. I'm going to come in with my cutter tool very carefully, trim off. Okay. Now for this one, I took another head pin and just made another simple loop. So I don't have any eye pins. So I'm going to trim off the head for that, right? Coming in with my round nose pliers, make a loop, and then break the neck on that. So the rondelles, Tina, are 2.5 millimeters, so really small, really, really small. All right, I'm going to open the loop I just made. I'm going to thread it onto the wrapped loop that we just created, and then I'm going to make sure that I get a good close back on that. Okay, so we've closed that up. And now I'm going to just layer. I'm going to use one of these little 2.5 millimeter bicones, or I'm sorry, rondelles. I'm going to use two bigger ones. I believe these are 5 by 7. I'm pretty sure. And then one more of the rondelles, the little rondelles. Okay. And then we're going to do another wrapped loop and add our ear wire, and our earrings will be complete. And again, just simple, 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 keeping it really easy today. Just as a reminder, in case you needed it, that beautiful jewelry does not have to be complicated. I say it all the time, and I mean it. And there's nothing wrong with taking pre-made components and turning them into personal pieces, right? Giving them a little bit more of your style with some simple wire wrapping or even glue, you guys. I used to be anti-glue with jewelry, but I got to tell you, there's nothing wrong with gluing to things if you want to. All right, so got a little bit of that left over. I'm going to trim that off. Okay. Now the only thing left to do is just add an ear wire. Okay. And there you go. Now you've got a matching set. So if you're thinking about the holidays, guys, if you're thinking about gift giving, I know it's early, but it's never too early to start working on those projects, right? It never fails that when it gets close to Christmas, you've got last minute ones that you need to put together, and that's fine. But if you can get a jump start on it, this is definitely one of those projects where you can give somebody a full set and you didn't use a ton of beads, but you did use gemstones. There's still some flash involved here. And if whoever you're giving it to is not a chain person, put it on a beautiful piece of leather or a beautiful piece of faux suede, something like that, to really kind of make it personal for the person. But we used a pre-made component, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. We just kind of took it to the next level. So all right, you guys, I'm going to turn you around. I'm going to show you what the necklace looks like hanging. I'm going to put the earrings on for you, and then we will say our goodbyes for today. So let me turn you around. I feel like you guys have something planned. What's happening over there? You're looking suspicious. You're not the problem.
No.
Ginger's on her best behavior today.
You told me to be.
We've been doing arts and crafts over here.
I noticed. I noticed. Ginger, I don't ever want you to be anything more than just Ginger. But with your clothes on. With your clothes on. There are rules.
Hey, if Sam's watching, don't get him.
Oh, he's gonna get all fired up.
So the earrings are just super, super simple.
Get him all bothered.
Y'all are funny. All right, so let me put so I know the earrings are kind of hard to see because they definitely are, they definitely aren't like huge. You know, we usually make big, huge, bold earrings, but simple. They go perfectly with our pendant that we made. So pretty.
Beautiful.
Isn't that pretty?
So pretty.
Really,
Don't
really
tear
like
that
that.
one apart or I'll kick you.
I won't tear it apart. I'll keep it fussing at me for taking jewelry apart. So sometimes you just got to reuse the beads. But no, this is definitely one I'm going to keep. In fact, I have 2 of these, so I'll probably put one of them in the shop and keep one of them to wear because it's just so pretty. And the colors are perfect for fall. So I hope you guys have enjoyed just a simple little something, right? Use what you've got. You don't have to spend a ton of money and you don't have to spend a ton of time on putting together some really beautiful sets, right? We have a whole set here. We've got our pendant on some chain and a matching set of earrings. That makes a great gift or just a great put together for if you're going out to do something. I feel like this year, hopefully, we're going to be going out a little bit more than we were last year. Maybe not as much as we want to, but there may be a party here or there. You never know, right? Put on something pretty and make up for the last year that we all spent in hibernation. All right, guys. So that's it for me today. Hope you have enjoyed today's project. I look forward to seeing some of you tomorrow at 2 p.m. for my Michael's class. If not, I'll be here same time, same place on Thursday with another fun project for you guys, as well as our Feel Good Friday on Fridays at 1 p.m. Everybody who's new, welcome in. We hope to see you again. Please come back and join us for another project. The rest of you guys have a wonderful rest of your afternoon. Hardwired group, I'll see you at 5 p.m. Eastern time. Bye, guys.